Hello and welcome. Today I have the privilege of a short interview with dyer and spinner extraordinaire, Peggy Doney. And she is the owner of 100th Sheep. She was kind enough to be the dyer for our roving that we had her do. And really happy to have you here today, Peggy. She's been in the fiber world for over 22 years, brought to it by extraordinary circumstances of friends and experiences. She's always had a passion for color. And like many of us who have dabbled or taken the deep plunge into dyeing, was motivated by not being able to find the color she wanted. So, Peggy, welcome.
Thank you.
I wanted to ask you a couple questions about where do you find your color inspiration?
Color is just all around us. Ever since I've been little, I would walk around and I'm looking at color. And I'm very fortunate that the women in my family pushed me toward my color, my art, and my dad pushed me toward math and science, which is what's coming together in the dyeing. But I find it outside. I love early morning walks with the sun coming up, and I get to see the Rocky Mountains snow-capped with that kiss of color. We get that lovely alpine glow, and I get to see Pikes Peak bathed in that light. Or anything down from that, let's say, to my mom with clothing catalogues, and she dog-ears pages for me saying, I think there's a colorway in here that you might like to do. And she's right. So, whether it's that or somebody else has a picture or they've got an inspiration, but I just find that I absolutely love getting to play with color. It's just amazing. And I think so many times people don't really see it.
So when you do see these colors, how do you translate that inspiration into dye?
I might look at a picture and there's obviously, it's not just green. How many different greens are there in order to have that pop of color? Because if everything were the same color, we'd all go, we're tired of it. We want to change the page, change the color. There's so many different color combinations that are out there. So it's not just color, but we also have then value. Is it a light color? Is it a darker color? Are we adding other undertones of color? And so I've learned about those things as I've played with dyes throughout the year, where I find that, I want something that's really, really saturated with color, extremely rich, all the way down to, I like to make it where people go, is there really color there when they're looking at it? Especially as a spinner, once I'm spinning those fibers, I'm actually bringing more color closer together instead of having the fibers spread further apart. So I'm constantly, condensing in that area. But I don't know, I'm closing my eyes and I'm seeing colors yet again. And for me to take that, and then through the years, having done so many different color studies, I know I've got hundreds. I wouldn't be surprised if I have 1,000 or more. I don't even have them all cataloged yet, but I have those colors and then I have the recipes. And so I can go and I can pull from my library of color swatches, samples, and I can pull them together. And I have found especially, it's really important to not just have like my depth of shade. You've got what's considered a medium depth of shade or a 1%, and that's kind of the gold standard. That's like a medium color strength. I like to make sure I have it at a very dark strength, as well as a light strength, because your colors actually can change from one color family to the next. I want to be able to get a feel for where a color is going and be able to try and pull that together through utilizing my samples.
So we came to you and I had an idea of an inspiration and asked you then to translate that into the dyed fiber. So how does it work differently when it's not coming from you?
That was interesting because I would have taken the picture you sent me, looked at it and gone, oh, okay. And I would have passed it on to go find something else that I really, really like. And that's something I've had to train myself to do, especially if I'm teaching or selling. It's not all about me. Shock, I know. Because there are people out there that absolutely love the autumnal palette. or a winter palette, and it would make me look sick if I tried to wear them. And so I learned to go with what I have that, makes my skin look better. And so having to look at your color inspiration photo that you sent me was fascinating in that I had to look, take guidance, and then create something that was harmonious, that would flow together. And it worked. It came together. And I had to plan, because you had mentioned about wanting to do a spin along where we're working with chunky yarn, spinning a chunky yarn. And so many spinners get caught in that rut of frog hair. They'll spin this super fine. So I had to analyze what I was going to do with this. I wanted people, as they're spinning, especially if they want to stretch themselves and do those larger yarns, that they would have larger areas, lengths of color, but that they would also have some of those transitions, but then some of the slightly darker, because I was thinking earlier about the entire year has just been through a really rough period with COVID-19. We've been touched by it. And what I have done is it reminds me somewhat of a stained glass window. And a stained glass window might not look all that interesting until the light's shining on it. But we also need to have those darker areas that will help bring and make those colors just shine, pop, come out, and come alive.
All right, a little bit more of a personal note. What is your favorite fiber to spin, and what do you usually spin for?
I love to spin BFL Silk. Blue-faced luster is a wonderful fiber. Love the shine, love the crimp, and I love the softness of it. And then when you pair that with silk, it's like shine on shine, and it's just gorgeous, because I love the way that silk adds that touch where it's almost like light comes out of it. It's like light emanates, begins, and comes out of that there. As far as what I spin for, primarily it's been more my business as far as selling hand spun yarns, but I've also recently decided I would like to have some things that I have done, whether it's for me or family members or somebody very, very special, that I would like to be able to bless them with something like that. So I'm having to shift my paradigm just a bit here.
So does dyer's block ever occur with you?
Oh, absolutely never. It does. And sometimes it's when I've had my nose to a grindstone for so long, I just can't see anymore. And I need to step back, step away. I have to just kind of take a break. And sometimes those breaks have been pretty long. But what I have found is after a while, having to measure out dye powder, having to measure out liquid, having to measure out how much I'm putting on my fiber, all that sort of stuff, I've learned that I need to go ahead and just cut loose. And I love to play with what I call my leftovers. And everybody goes, ooh, leftovers for dinner? No, I have leftovers for dyeing. And it gives me a chance to play with color theory, and I learn new things. That none of this has come naturally or easily to me. I've had to develop this skill. There are people where it just oozes out of their fingertips. And you go, wow, how did they figure that out? And so for me, I've had to work at it all these years. And now people think that's what it's like for me. But it's like, no, I've had to take a different path to get here. And so as I'm working and I'm looking around, I will figure out, okay, I know what the rules are. I'm going to break them on purpose and see what I can learn from that. And I've loved especially taking dye recipes and taking something like that medium depth of shade and going, I want to make sure I've got a much darker value and a much lighter value so I can see how other colors in my recipe, what's talking louder than the other colors, because it changes. You've got colors that are bullied, so to speak, run over by much stronger ones on the color playground. But the amazingness of watching it change from one color family to another, and I just go, I geek out. You and I were talking about color recently, and we're both geeking out together. But I wish people could see color differently as opposed to, yeah, I've got a blue shirt on.
So if you had a piece of information, like a general piece of information for people who don't consider themselves color people, what would it be?
I think I would say I want you to take time and look. I realized that when we lived in San Jose, California, we had the gold mountains or the brown mountains. And then on the other side of the valley, we had the green mountains. And that's what people called them. and they just didn't see it anymore. And it was beautiful to have almost like a straw-like color on those golden mountains, and with the sunlight coming and playing on them and the clouds moving across, and I'm just fascinated with it. And then to have these rich emerald green mountains. And here I love getting to look out my window and see the Front Range and getting to see the colors throughout the day. And I think there are so many people that are in a hurry. And hey, I've been there. I've been in a hurry too. But to stop and look at the indigo that's on those mountains, or the teaberry color, that wash, or sometimes with the sunlight coming through as the westering sun is starting to get very, very low just before it dips behind Pikes Peak. And I wish people would stop and really look and see what those colors are, because we have dark colors, we have those medium, we have light. And you know that when you're looking at a beautiful sunrise or sunset, those colors change within seconds.
Yeah. Yes.
It's fleeting, but that beauty that you can take with you lasts a lifetime.
Oh,
So look at color and just enjoy it and see it for the beauty that it is.
Peggy, thank you so much for dyeing our fiber.
You're
And thank you so
welcome.
much for being here and geeking out with me about color. Very happy to have you. Thanks
Thank
again.
you so much.